It's Thursday already, December the 4th, 2025. This week is really flying by for me. And not because I've been especially busy, but it's kind of nice. It's getting down to the kind of the slow part of the season, but I have been doing quite a bit. I've been doing quite a bit of home deliveries, store deliveries, and I did 2 markets in the last 7 days, and that's pretty unusual for me. But my local markets, I used to do markets all over the place in the city, quite a few in the city, all day markets, night markets. And those were, you know what, they're profitable, and I actually enjoy them. When I'm there, I enjoy them. But when I'm setting up and tearing down and preparing and cleaning up, I don't enjoy them. They take a lot of time. It's not just a few hours at the market out of your time allotment. It's a number of hours before, hours getting there, hours getting back, and putting things away when you get home the next day. So, well, the next day after you get home from the market the previous day. So that's the part I don't like. It's very, it's time consuming, and it's tiring. So I'm getting old and do very few markets. I think I did 2 last summer, and I did 2 this week, and that's it until next summer. I may have talked about this last one I did. I did on Wednesday. It's about the only market I do without my wife's help. And I mean, she helps plenty because she helps prepare, in particular, the candles that we've been taking to markets. And we've not been selling very many candles at markets. I'll explain where I'm selling the candles here in a minute. But that's her involvement in this market, and putting up with me complaining about it. That's her involvement as well. But this market is in a little town. It's a 45-minute drive away, and it's at a seniors complex. So they have all levels of residents there, right from very independent right to need a lot of care. I don't know if they have what's called personal care there, which, heavy duty care. But anyway, it's a big building. A lot of people live there. And so they have every Christmas season, they have a gift market. They invite a number of us to come, and they don't charge us to be there. And it's only an hour and a half. The market is an hour and a half, so it's nice. You set it takes me 45 minutes to get there. It takes me an hour to set up, hour to tear down, and an hour and a half of selling. But I've been doing it for years, that market. I don't know how many years, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. And I always come home with a smile on my face. It's a lot of fun to do that market. I see there's some people live there who I know, so I get to see them. And it's the kind of the really interesting thing about that market is I'll sell within about $50 of the same amount every time I go there every year. I don't, the organizer came to me afterwards and they had a new venue, just a new room that they were using. It's a nice room, much bigger, which afforded us some conveniences in a number of ways. But she asked, so what do you think of how did you do in the market? And I turned to her and I said, I did just fine, but I don't come here for the money. I come here because I like coming here, which is true. I would do it for a lot less, but I can't give away product just because I enjoy being there. So anyway, I did that one on Wednesday. I sold quite a bit, actually, more than I normally sell, which was nice. We did a market in town here nearby on Saturday past. So that would have been the day if you look at the vlog on the first day, that would have been while I was at the market. And we sold well on that one too. So it was nice to get some income. It's been a little dry. November's been a little dry, but it picked up. So I don't have a lot of content this week, to be honest. It's storming here. Winter arrived. We've got a couple inches of snow, and the wind, it's heavy wind. We're getting what's called an Alberta clipper right now. We kind of get 2 systems that have names like that names of far off places where it seems that that's where the system comes from. I don't know that that's very fair, because it's almost like blaming that place for your weather. Weather is what it is, right? But we have Colorado lows, which are characterized by warm temperatures, 3 days of snow and blowing, heavy winds, and heavy snow. So the snow is wet, and lots of it. We can get a foot of snow, maybe 1.5 feet or 2 feet of snow in a really bad Colorado low. In 2022, you may recall, if you've been watching my channel, in April, we had 3 weeks. We had Colorado lows 3 weeks in a row. So that's 3 days out of each of 3 weeks. And that's what caused the heavy flooding in my apiary. And so you may have watched that. If you didn't see that video, scroll back to April 2022 and you'll see the oh man, I don't even know what to call it. It's calamity is what it is going on there, pulling hives out of, 18 inches of water and stuff like that. So there was that. But this system we have is called an Alberta clipper, characterized by colder temperatures, still some not as high winds, and a bit of snow. But the snow is dry snow, so it's not going to be, it doesn't cause as dangerous road conditions, because the snow it doesn't turn to ice when you drive on it right away. So an Alberta clipper is not nearly as bad as a Colorado low, but it's still a storm system that moves through, and they move fast. So you're really looking at 1 day, not 3. Like a Colorado low is just makes a Manitoban shake in their boots. It's just like, oh, here we go again. Yeah, that's about as bad as it gets here. So I'm just putting together some more of my little crate gift packs here, and I'll tell you about pricing. Well, I'll show you a candle here. So I've got a couple candles in here. I've got a little, it's called a medium skep, and then I've got 4 candlesticks, a liquid squeeze bottle, and a jar of creamed honey. And I want to show you these candles. I have them in little bags, so I'll take them out so you can see them. I bought these molds on Amazon. They weren't horribly expensive. I mean, they weren't nothing, right? I don't remember what they were, $15 or $20 or something. And the interesting thing about these molds is it's a white silicone and it's very soft, which can cause problems with trying to keep the mold in a circular form. My wife is very crafty. She put a mason jar lid, a mason jar ring over the top and the bottom to help support the mold. So this is the first one I bought. This says Merry Christmas there, and it's got some snowflakes and whatnot. It's very pretty. I really like these candles. And I was going to say the mold is funny, because you don't pull the candle out of the mold. You kind of peel the mold inside out to get the candle out. So it's very easy. And then there's another style here, Merry Christmas. It's got little, on the description on Amazon, it says it's got a snowman. It's a gingerbread man. It's not a snowman. Anyway, so those are a nice little candle. We've only to date had our little skep candle here with the bees, and so these are quite a bit bigger. Very nice candle. Of course, I need to charge a little more money for that. So I'll show you this other one we have. We don't sell very many of these because they're definitely more of an investment in a candle. That's just a great big plain pillar candle. I get $30 with tax for that thing. So again, I don't sell very many of those. Candles are not a big part of our business, but I think getting into this kind of thing, it might start to be. That seller for that candle, they had one more style. It had would it have a elk or a reindeer or something on it? I might get that one too. It doesn't really matter. If you have variety, it doesn't matter. because, they're just going to buy a candle anyway. So I'll put those back in the bags. I just put them in the bags to keep them clean. You don't want to be selling a dirty candle to somebody. Although, if the candle is dusty or dirty, just wash it. It's wax. It's not going to absorb water. So I've been making more of my crates, putting those together. I have not sold very many at my markets. I think in the 2 markets, I think I sold 4 crates. So I took just boxes and boxes of them because I didn't know if these things would just fly off the table. And much to my chagrin, they didn't. I'll give you a look at what I was using to transport them. I didn't know what to use because, first of all, how many of those can you get in a box? Not very many, but they're, you don't want to be too heavy. And then there's that candle sticking up. You can't stack them. And that's a 5-inch candle in the box, so it's 5.5 inches high at least. So I thought, well, what's about 5.5 inches high? I don't know, but this is 6.5 inches high. You recognize this thing? That's a medium hive body, and so these fit in here really nicely. I had some leftover pieces of plywood. They're not quite the right size, so I had to put them on a bit cornerwise to make them go across. And I can get 5 of my 3. I call them triples, and then I had some doubles, so just 2 jars, no candles. And I can get 5 of these and 1 of the doubles in each one of these boxes. And then they stack. I can stack them in the truck. I can stack them at the market and carry them. And they're not all that heavy once I get those 6 crates in there. So that's about it. So most of my crates are going to retailers. I've got a couple of retailers who have spoken for them. I haven't advertised them around to more retailers because they just don't have the supply. Next year, maybe I can get an earlier start on these and then shop them around to more retailers and get them out there. Pricing wise, I've wrestled with pricing, and this is what I decided to do. I'm not making anything on the crate. I'm not making anything on the packaging. And I'm pretty well just selling these wholesale. Wholesale price for the jars, wholesale price for the candles. I think that's reasonable. I'm still making a little bit of money with the wholesale pricing. But the thinking is these are gifts, right? So these are gifts. I have a lot of customers who buy honey, and generally they'll buy either 500 gram jars or they'll buy 500 gram squeeze bottles to give as gifts to friends and family, and actually businesses and employees and stuff like that. So I sell a lot that way, and I love that kind of thing because that gets, well, first of all, it shows me that a customer loves my product enough that they want to share it. And it's a great honor for me to be on somebody's Christmas list, to be the provider of Christmas gifts for someone. I think that really says a lot, and it really makes me happy to be, among the people that they would spend their Christmas budget on. But also where it benefits me, it benefits me because I sell product, but I sell generally wholesale in those cases. But how it also benefits me, and this speaks to why I can wholesale and I don't have to make a ton of money on it, because that may yield into residuals. And residuals are more customers, more sales after the fact, that sort of thing. So it's kind of what you call a promotional item, I suppose. So I'm making a little bit of money up front, and that honey is a gift. So it's going to someone who's not a honey customer, not my honey customer. So then maybe they will be my honey customer in the long run. and then I can refer them to a retailer that I service, or I can do home deliveries, which often it turns into home deliveries. But that's kind of my thinking. I thought about it a long time and went back and forth on different pricing models, but that's what I decided to run with. Talking about business decisions, one of the most interesting things I find about, you know, deciding to do what I'm doing is making the business decisions. You know, on one hand, it can be terrifying, but on the other hand, it's liberating. You know, if somebody comes in my yard and, you know, to do a job, dig a hole or run a wire or something, and I'm really happy with them, they go home with a jar of honey. I have that. I have that freedom, but also I have to be strict with myself that I make sure that I'm don't get into thinking I'm running a charity or a nonprofit. Quite often it's nonprofit, but that's my own fault, right? So it's the business decisions that are very challenging and interesting. Challenging in an interesting way. You can sit and do numbers all day long, market research, doing craft markets and farmer markets and stuff are good market research because you get to talk to the customer and see how they react to the story of your product. And people love to have story in their product. So the more, you can't talk their leg off, but the more meaningful story the customer can take home, the more connection they have. One of the things I do, I mean, it's only in the summer, generally June and July, but mostly any time in the summer, June and July are the best times. If someone comes to the farm to buy honey, they always get the invitation. Do you want to come see the bees? They're just in the backyard here. And more often than not, yeah, let's do that. And I've had elderly people, you know, I've asked that, well, I don't want to walk that. And I say, it's okay. You can drive right to the beehive and you can stay in the car if you're not comfortable getting out. I'll bring stuff to you and show you. So I show them what I can, and that will depend on seasonal. If they're here at the right time, they get to taste some honey out of the hive, which is a real treat. Get that nectar when it's hot and runny. Oh boy, that's good. So that just augments their story. That gives them more story and more connection to the farm, to the bees, to the honey, and to me, the beekeeper. And so one of the part of that story with these crates is what I've been telling people, and it's not untrue at all, is that these crates, I make these crates, so I just want to make it clear that I didn't just go to Walmart and buy these or order it out of Alibaba to China or something. So I make these crates in my shop from leftover wood from building beehives. And I don't build beehives, I build pallets and lids and stuff like that, but you don't have to get that complicated. It wouldn't mean anything to them. So they know what a beehive is, right? They can picture a beehive. Okay, so if I'm building a beehive in my shop, there's scrap wood left over, there's little pieces. I can cut it up, make a really nifty little crate, and they can take that crate home or give it as a gift or get two and do both. So that's just to speak about the story. I know I've heard stories from other beekeepers about how their product ideas came about. Somebody said something, or you know, I like this or I don't like that, and they'll come up with product ideas. And so that kind of a story means a lot to people, especially the person who came up with the idea. So all of that kind of stuff is the really, really interesting part of running your own business. Now, what I thought I would comment on is the not interesting part. And not only is it not interesting, it's, you know what, in a way it is interesting, but it's challenging, it's difficult. And if you're trying to run your own business, I hope I can be encouraging to you with what I'm about to say. I don't want to discourage you with what I'm about to say, but it's real. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you start making excuses and sugarcoating things in your business will fail. Running a business is an exercise in being honest with yourself. right? You have to call a spade, especially if you're sole proprietor like I am. I have no business partner. I have no employees. I have no managers. There's nobody telling me how to run my business. Circumstance tells me how to run my business. Profitability tells me how to run my business. Um, Managing my apiary tells me how to run my business. My customers tell me how to run my business. So I have to run my business in a way that suits my goals and objectives. And we all talk about, or quite often people talk about, being successful in business. If you want to be successful, this is what you do. 9 times out of 10, if somebody says that, they talk about making money. And that's fine. I have no problem if that's your goal of success, if that's what you call success, and that's what you're kind of aiming for and is the most important thing. Godspeed. I have no problem with that at all. Ethics is different, right? Sometimes money can make people do some pretty crazy things, but all things being equal, things are done ethically. Making a profitable business that can make you financially stable and financially independent, that's awesome. That's not the case for everybody. My motivation of running this business is kind of, I will say, mental health. I came from a very high pressure, high stress business environment, and while I found it very, very interesting and exciting, it does take a toll. It really takes a toll. So a lot of people strive for that kind of stuff, and they yearn for that high pressure, high stress life. I don't. I just don't. My ideal life is very different than that. So that's what I chase in my business, and what I have built in my business is exactly what I want to build in my business. I wanted to build a business that was a little more profitable, but I still have work to do in that regard. So you just have to keep. It's like these crates. You do something and throw it out there in the marketplace. If the marketplace loves it, then great. If they don't love it, okay, you do something else, right? And it's not always about price either. It's not always about price. But what I wanted to say, what I was thinking of this morning is showing up, right? We got a job. You have to show up. You have to show up for your boss, and you have to show up for your job. When you're running your own business, particularly as a sole proprietor, you need to show up for yourself. And that is way harder than it sounds. So if I were to give anybody advice in running a business, a small business and a business, like I say, a sole proprietorship, that is absolutely the number one most important thing. If you cannot do anything else, show up. Get up, get showered, get your clothes on, get out to wherever it is your business is held, whether it's the wood shop or the honey house or the bee yard, and just show up. That's all you have to do. Because after that, pieces will start to fall into place. Prioritization, then after that, I try to set objectives for the day. This, and this needs to get done today. And it's usually a matter of deciding what 100 things are not going to get done today, because in beekeeping, there's 100 times more things to do than you can do, and half of them are on fire. So I do have difficulty in the fall when there's nothing else on fire and I only have 1 or 2 things to do that day, or maybe 0. I have a hard time showing up, right? Maybe there's nothing dragging me out of the house. I love my downtime, and I do need a rest after a busy summer. So that is, to me, the number one most important thing is show up. If you don't show up, there's no way it's going to happen, because guess who else you see here? Who else do you see here that's going to do it? Nobody. That's who. My wife is always very encouraging to me, and that helps a lot to have somebody in your life who encourages you in your business, encourages you in your day, You don't need to blow smoke up somebody's butt in order to encourage them. You don't need to lie to them. I don't need people around me who lie to me. But I do want a positive atmosphere, right? And that doesn't mean I don't want to have the difficult conversations. That's not what that means. You need to have difficult conversations sometimes, and a lot of times it's with yourself, right? One of the more recent difficult conversations I had with myself was, I guess it was probably 3 years ago now. After 2020, after the calamity of 2020, I try not to react to things around me. I'd like to have a measured response. And if anybody were to ask me what's the biggest mistake you made in your business, it's not raising my prices in 2020. I struggled for 2 years. I made zero money in 2 years. Then I raised my prices. So I just started digging out of that hole 3 years ago, and things are just starting to fall in place in the last year. Before that, like 2019, I was making money. My business was going great. I was making money. And then that came to a crash, screeching halt, as they say, when all of my inputs, all my expenses and everything went way up in 2020. And I don't know why I waited. Everything else around me was going up. And I don't chase the bottom of the barrel. Like, I'm not the cheap product, so I don't know why I didn't put prices up. I think I was in denial that this thing that was going on in 2020 was going to change the world the way it did. I think I was in denial, had my head in the sand. And so that's a bad, bad thing. You need, the opposite of head in the sand is finger on the pulse. So you need your finger on the pulse and your nose to the grindstone. So we can round out the metaphors there. So that difficult conversation I had, I was struggling. I was just struggling. I was working so hard and I was getting nowhere. And I could see it. The numbers don't lie, right? They'll tell you. You can manipulate numbers, but if you're honest with yourself and you look at the numbers for what they are, they don't lie. So I looked at the numbers and they weren't lying to me. And I had to have a very stern talk with myself. And the question was, are you running a business or are you running a charity? Because I'm really not that interested in running a charity. I support charities for people who work at those charities and run those charities. And there's some really great work they do. But the alternative, the options that I gave myself is you either make money or sell the whole thing and sit on the couch and watch TV all day. I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway, but you know what I mean. Because I'd be, then I would be making the same amount of money and not killing myself doing it. So that was a conversation, and the answer was very, very clear. It was, no, I'm not going to quit this. I'm going to make money. So most of it was in raised prices. And honestly, my prices didn't go up past the marketplace anyway. So that's no big deal. And nobody blinked. Nobody blinked when my prices went up. So that was a difficult conversation. So that's what I'm talking about when you need to have difficult conversations and you need to ask yourself difficult questions. The questions you don't want to answer, right? You almost have to have, the little angel and the little devil, right? And they're telling you different things. Well, sometimes the devil needs to ask you the hard questions. But those are just some thoughts about, running your own business and coming up with product ideas, working them, attempting to market them. I'm saying, well, I'm not selling a lot of these at markets. Well, I'll sell them at the stores, right? But so it doesn't mean that they don't sell at the markets really well. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea. And it doesn't mean it's not a product people want. What it means is that's not the vehicle. That's not the market. That's not the customer segment at those markets. That's not what they're looking for at the market. When they go to a store and they see that, they like that, and that's where they'll buy that. So you have to not only find the product that people want, you have to find how to find the people who want that, because there are people who want almost any product, they want it. Again, we don't sell very many candles. Well, why don't we sell very many candles? Not because they're not pretty candles. I mean, you should see those candles. They're beautiful candles. It's because we really don't pursue that. We put a few on the table at the market, so we sell one or two. They don't sell really well. But now with the crates, we can maybe move a few candles and whatnot. But again, the core of my business is honey. The core of my business is honey. That's what one of my business mentors taught me. He said that you stick to your knitting, right? Don't get distracted. And that's a balance with another principle, diversification, right? If you're sticking to your knitting so close that all your eggs are in one basket, to use even more metaphors, you're in the danger zone now. You may be profitable, business may be going really well, but if you drop that basket or the bottom falls out or somebody, something, you've got one thing. And so diversification is where it's at. Within the honey business, I have a bit of diversification. It's all honey, but it's surprising how different, like diversification in customers really is what you're looking for. So I'll have this little guy, that's 500 grams, which to an American, that's just over a pound. And then I'll have a 11-pound pail, 5 kilogram, 11-pound pail. That's a different customer, right? So that's kind of the diversification that I have in the honey business. I have people who drive here to the farm. I have people who get home delivery. I have retail customers. So there's some diversification. So if the retail business, the bottom falls out of that somehow, I got home delivery. If home delivery falls apart, then, I got people coming to the farm. Home delivery could fall apart. Maybe I get sick and I can't drive around, right? Think about that. And that's another thing I need to think more carefully about is we don't think about, well, some of us, I don't think about my health as much until my health is bad. And then I think about nothing else, right? Because I can't do anything else. So, yeah, I'm out on deliveries again tomorrow. So I won't likely do any video on Friday. So this might be it for this week. I might get some emails saying it's too short. It's not that short, but when I put out a 7-minute video, I sure got some feedback on that. It's like, what else am I going to do with my morning now that there's only a 7-minute video? I'm listening to the wind blow out there, and that's the last place I want to be is outside. That's crazy out there. So tomorrow I deliver crates to a retailer. They're going to take some candles, some loose candles as well. So that's going to be a really nice delivery for me. Nice to see them too. That's something I kind of insist upon with my retailers is I want retailers who are happy to see me, and I want retailers who are excited about the product. I've had retailers who, I remember one in particular, it was a small store, and I went there for a couple of years, and every time I went there, they had no idea who I was. They didn't know what I wanted. They didn't know if they had, I'd go and look on the shelf, and there's 2 jars on the shelf, and I'd say, is there any of this in the storage room, or should I bring more in? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. What is it again you sell, right? And I just stopped going there. I was like, they don't care if I'm there or not, obviously, right? So I'd rather just pick up a different retailer and have somebody who's excited about the product and happy that I'm there, right? Sometimes I had a big, fairly big store in the city, and I didn't feel welcome. They actually sold quite a bit of honey. I didn't feel welcome, so I don't go there anymore at all. It was a very negative vibe in that place. They ended up not paying their bills. So I did get paid, but you know, that's just one of, yeah, you got to pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, then you're out here. That's just the way it goes. So that's my theory on retailers. I love the small retailers. You know them by name. They know you by name. They know exactly who you are when you show up. They're excited about the product. You know, they'll phone you if they need product, or you drop in and stock the shelf yourself. You know, very nice relationships. I really appreciate you watching. Sorry there wasn't too much terribly interesting video this week, just me standing here. But that's kind of what's going on right now. It's winter. Winter definitely has arrived. Snow blowing, snow and cold temperatures. Oh, it was cold yesterday going to that market. Oh, it was cold. But I got through. I don't like the cold, and I don't like snow. Why do I live in Canada? Thanks so much for watching, and I truly mean that. I really, really appreciate you watching. And leave me some comments, even if it's just a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you want to give me a thumbs down, that's okay. I wouldn't blame you. There's no real content this week, just me talking. I hope you have a great weekend and a great week coming up. Might have some wood shop next week. I've got a couple of orders. Need to blast through a couple of orders, and I've got some crates to build. I told a buddy that I'd build him some crates, and so he wants a triple crate for a smaller jar. He gave me some samples to build, so I'm going to build a few crates for him. It's not a Christmas thing at all, so there's no pressure that way. But that's what I'll be doing next week, hopefully in the shop. And I hope you have a great weekend and a great week coming up. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have fun.